And I would say it was okay. Hype, publicity, reviews, raves, happiness, all that good stuff. And to me, the summary, not even to me. Read it by the light of day, my friends. This one was creepy. Hi everybody, it's Audrey and welcome back to Chapter and Converse. I thought I would try something a little bit different with my reading wrap-ups and trying to film them in increments when the stories are fresh, and maybe we won't have these 30-minute month-end wrap-ups that get posted 3 months late, like what was happening in the end of 2020. So it is January 10th. I have finished 3 books. I have started a 4th book, and then I'm doing sort of like this daily workbook book. So I will get back to you guys in February because it's a 40-day process about that one. But I wanted to dive into sort of initial thoughts, feelings about the books I've read so far. I feel like there's so much pressure, self-imposed, to pick the perfect book to kick off the new year. And I didn't do it. And I don't mean that in like a horrible, horrible way, but it's not like the first book out of the gate I was like, yes, this is a 5-star read. Yes, this is going to be on my best of list. And we're here to talk about it today. So the first book I read this year, I actually listened to, and it's The Wrong Family by Tarryn Fisher. And this is my first Tarryn Fisher book, but I had heard so much hype about The Wives last year that I was curious about it. And when it popped up on Hoopla as a new release, I just snagged it immediately and, you know, popped in my headphones and off I went. And I didn't love this book. I feel like it was kind of like 3 stars. So parts of it felt a little bit predictable to me. Parts of it felt a little familiar to me, and I am all down with like unlikable characters and doing unlikable things, but I just didn't wholly connect with this book. So this is sort of like back cover kind of stuff. You have 2 women. So you have Juno, who's a retired therapist, and she kind of meets this family, Winnie and her husband Nigel and their son Sam. So Juno actually meets Sam, the 12-year-old son, but she gets kind of connected to this family and she thinks they have this perfect life and this perfect marriage and all of this stuff. But then Juno finds out a secret that they are keeping, and she finds herself in this place of like, I shouldn't get involved, but I kind of want to get involved, but I shouldn't really stick my nose into things, but maybe I can fix things and make it right. So I'm going in. And she does. And what happens in this story is what happens when Juno gets involved in the family. And it's hard to talk about, obviously, because it's like domestic suspense thriller-ish without giving anything away. But what I will say, so early on, we kind of have a bit of a storyline where it felt familiar to me, where I was like, wow, this feels like it happened in Desperate Housewives. I'm pretty sure this 100% happened in Desperate Housewives. And there was a storyline that kind of sort of happened in Desperate Housewives. And I will say there were some good twists. There were like some good sort of sleight of hand that happened in this. I did enjoy a lot of aspects of Juno as a character, but I didn't love Winnie, and I don't know that you were supposed to, and I didn't love Nigel, and I don't think you were supposed to. But again, I often like unlikable characters doing unlikable things, but I had a hard time with like that whole side of the book, if you will. So I feel like it's hard to love a dual point of view when you only like one point of view. And then it does get a little bit off the rails, and I did feel like I could see the ending coming was a little ridiculous. I didn't love the ending of it all, and I actually didn't love kind of part of the reveal of the secret that Winnie was keeping that kind of Juno stumbles upon. So I thought it could have been better, and I feel like a jerk saying these things sometimes, but it just didn't live up to my expectations, I guess I should say. Like I wanted like higher, crazier, escalated stuff. And I was talking to Sarah from Sarah's Nightstand about it afterwards, and this is where I also feel like a complete idiot. I didn't realize that Tarryn Fisher had like this whole string of books kind of before she hit it big with The Wives. So she has sort of this whole dark, kind of crazy backlist. And I wound up picking up Mudvayne, which Sarah told me to give that one a go, and I found it on iBooks for like $3.99. So I haven't read it yet. I like legit just got it the other day. So I'm excited to read some of her older stuff, because kind of from what Sarah was saying is like, I don't think she played it as safe in her older books, so they might be more my speed. slash darker and more twisted. And I'm excited to dig into it. So this wasn't a bad book, but it just wasn't, I just wanted more out of it. And I feel like that's usually the reason why I don't like certain thrillers or kind of certain books in general, is because I want more, or I wanted something different to happen. So maybe I'm not thrilled with like the trajectory the story went on, because I wanted something else to happen in it. But that was book number 1 for 2021. So then I read No Exit by Taylor Adams. And this was a book that was in my Snowy Reads video. It has been on my iPad forever. And it's one of those books that I've heard so many people talk about. And I will say, I was not prepared for this book. So I sort of had in my head what this was. So the summary plot that I had heard about this book was, we have this girl named Darby. She is a college student in Boulder. She is driving home. It's like Christmas Eve. She's trying to get back to her mom because her mom is dying. And her mom have a super fractured relationship, but she's got to get back because her mom is dying. And a blizzard hits. And she's got this little like Honda or something like that. And she has to pull over at a rest stop because she just can't go any further, and the roads are closed, and there's ice storms and all the things. So she gets to this rest stop, and there's 4 other people who are also trapped there. And it's basically like, we're here probably for like the next, till tomorrow morning kind of a thing, because the plows can't get through. There was an accident on the highway, all the things. So she wanders outside because she's trying to find a signal for her phone, because the service is obviously crappy as well. And when she is coming back into the rest stop, she notices that the van that's parked next to her in the rest stop parking lot has a cage in the back with a kid locked inside of it. And Darby is like, oh my God, I need to save this kid. And oh my God, somebody I am stuck at this rest stop with owns this van and has the kid in the back. So what ensues is as crazy as it sounds. But I was not prepared for where this book went. And this is definitely one of those books. It's like twists and turns, and it's like, at one point, one of the characters, Ashley, is like, oh, come on. And there were points in this book where I was 100% Ashley, where I was like, oh, come on. But I needed to know what was going to happen next. I needed to flip the pages. I was just invested in the insanity that this thing was, and you just have to give in to the crazy. Because this is crazy. This is totally crazy. And I don't mean it in a bad way. But I was not prepared for the level of intensity that this book was. And it's funny, when I had put it in my Snowy Reads recommendations, I want to say, somebody commented down below that was like, I will never look at a rest stop the same way. Same. So realizing that we're still living in a world where road trips and vacations and all that stuff is not in my destiny future at anytime soon. If I ever take another road trip, I don't think I will ever stop at a rest stop again if there's any sort of hint of inclement weather. Like, just, I don't know. Scary. So it is atmospheric, it is creepy, it is all the snowy, isolated, trapped feelings. You will definitely feel tense. Like, this was one of those books where, like, before bed I had to stop reading it because it was completely like amping up my stress anxiety level, and it only took me a few days to read it. So read it by the light of day, my friends. This one was creepy. I also listened to the nonfiction book Badass Habits by Jen Sincero, and I have talked about her on this channel before. So I read You Are a Badass. I've read it a few times, which I think was her first book. And this is self-help, self-improvement, call it whatever you want. And I am on a mission this year. I will film a book haul of like all of my self-improvement books that I have picked up to get me back on track for 2021. And I'm just a huge fan of Jen Sincero's writing style. She narrates the audiobook. I have done You Are a Badass. I've read it. I've also listened to it. And I think the thing with self-help is you find the voice that works for you, you find the content that works for you, you find the delivery of the content that works for you. And a lot of this stuff is a lot of things you've heard before. And I think that's fine, because it's, there's so many ways to break habits, there's so many ways to build habits, but you find the inspiration you need to get what you need out of it to get you going. And for me, Jen Sincero is a great voice. She's no nonsense, but she's also funny. She shares some relatable, I think, personal stories. I think she's got a great perspective on things. And I love just sort of like her quick get to it. It's not deeply heavy scientific, textbooky kind of things, but at the same time, there's great lessons to be learned in it. It's things you can easily put into place. There's a little bit of calling you out on your crap. There is a little bit of sort of warm fuzzy hug, but there's also parts where it's like truth telling that comes out of it. So I really enjoyed this. So what I will say, so I got this from my library, and it was one of those books that had like a crazy 4-month wait time, but I guess people were just too busy and kept passing on it, so it kicked to me really quick. And this is a book that I will pick up in print at some point, either like the ebook or I'll buy the book. For me, I find with self-help books, I want to underline things. I want to take notes on it. I want to be able to reference back to it. But doing an audiobook through my library is a great way for me to kind of test drive the book and make sure that it's something that I want. And I test drove and I want to buy this car, basically. So the book at the beginning, it kind of goes through kind of like some of that tough love part of it is like, you know, you have a bunch of bad habits that you want to break, but also give yourself some grace and realize that you also have a lot of good habits that you either have always inherently have, that you have built in, and maybe you're not giving yourself credit for it, and you can get out of some of your bad habits. And it kind of breaks down to some of the root of things and what's holding you back. But the second part of this book is actually a 21-day journey towards building a new habit. And she has you focus on one thing in particular, and it can be anything from like, I want to stop biting my nails, I want to stop drinking, I want to write every day, I want to stop shopping, you know, I want to eat vegetables, I want to fix, you know, make sure I'm not eating a sleeve of cookies every day, like whatever it is. It can be as small or as large as you want it to be, but she wants you to focus on one thing for 21 days. And what's tricky about just having the audiobook of this, or even just getting it from your library, I mean, I don't know about you, but like, I can't take a book out of the library for a month, but it's a day-by-day journey, and she has you do journal prompts and writing prompts, and it's similar in that way to a book that I'm reading right now. So when the time is right for me to be able to commit to this, because I don't want to be doing multiple journeys at the same time, I will get a physical copy of it so that I can do the 21-day journey alongside it. So I did listen through it. I did like it. I did like the message of this book. I do think there's great value to having an author read it to you and read along with it, which I did. Last month I did it with You Are a Badass. The second time I went through it, I did it side by side. So anyway, I really enjoyed this book. She has a book about money habits, which I want to pick up as well. And I definitely am going to reread her first book, You Are a Badass, this year, because again, it's easily digestible, it's quick reads, there's some great takeaways in these books, and I feel like anything that can help set me up for success, I am all over it. So those are the 3 books that I've finished so far this year, and then I am reading White Ivy right now by Susie Yang, and this is just the cover of the book's actually on my nightstand. But this is not a thriller. So after No Exit, I needed to like 100% pump the brakes and get out of Crazy Town, and now I have found like a different version of kind of like a crazy character, but I'm loving Ivy so far. So this is a coming to America Chinese immigrant. Ivy and her family have come to the US. I think this covers her life from like 14 to 24 or like 15 to 24 or something like that. But when she's in high school, she develops this crush on this boy that she thinks is like all the things and totally perfect. But then her family moves away. And many years later, she runs into his sister and she thinks it's just destiny. And basically it says like she has worked long and hard to be the right woman for Gideon. And they start to date, but then a guy from Ivy's past appears and kind of rocks the boat. So it says Ivy soon has a foot in 2 vastly different worlds, and the question is, which will she choose? So it's a coming-of-age story, a love triangle, an exploration of class, race, and identity, a page-turner that will appeal to fans of the talented Mr. Ripley. So I loved Ripley. I only saw the movie. Don't judge me just yet. I've got the book too. But I'm excited for this. And did I say I was listening to a podcast that Susie Yang was on? Because I was. And I'm excited to read this. So I've heard some great things about it, and I'm in. And I'll let you guys know what happens. So that's going to do it for this video. Thank you guys for watching and listening to some initial thoughts on some initial books that I've read in 2021. Let me know what you guys have read. Have you like read a 5-star read? Like tell me your first book of the year is one that you know is going to be on your best of list for the year. Or tell me that maybe you started off the new year with something that was a little more womp womp, like I did. But thanks again, guys, for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.